to thank all of my distinguished guests. It's wonderful to have you here. Itamar coming all the way from Jerusalem, Joseph coming from the Washington, D.C. area, and Mr. Little, of course, Virginia Beach. We're delighted to have you. I want to go ahead. We've got 30 minutes to get through our program, and I'm going to start with Itamar setting the stage for the question that I have for you. One of the concerns that we have within the Christian community is that there's a growing number of Christians that we're seeing that are being more sympathetic to the plight of the cause of Palestinians and oppression, and accusing Israel of occupying Palestinian land. We know that there's a conference coming up in Bethlehem, which is the city of Jesus' birth. And the conference is called Christ at the Checkpoint. And we understand that this conference is where 30 evangelical Christian leaders are going to be talking about how the Jewish people are oppressing the Palestinians. We have a hard time understanding here in the United States this dichotomy, this community there, because we've always associated Bethlehem with a peaceful place. Can you speak to the people, the Palestinian, who are the Palestinian people that we are talking about? Explain to our audience, please.
Well, I think the reason that any Palestinian or any world population will have this kind of an attitude is because there is so much misinformation and lack of information around the world about what's really happening in the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority speaks in two different languages. There's an English language for foreign consumption, there's an Arabic language for internal consumption. And most often, there is no resemblance between those two messages. So to their own people, they will be talking about violence, about hatred, demonizing Israelis and Jews. And to the rest of the world, they're going to be speaking in English and talking about promoting peace and coexistence between different, between themselves and the Israelis. If I may, we have some videos, and I'd like to give you two examples of two sets of videos that we've prepared. Palestinian Media Watch, for 15 years, has been following what's happening in the Palestinian world. We use the media as a window to Palestinian society. We study their music videos, we study their sports pages, we study everything about Palestinian society. And what I want to do tonight is show you a couple of videos relating to two specific issues, things that you would never hear them say in English, but these are messages that come regularly in Arabic. And Stan, if we can start and show the first two videos, and then we'll discuss them for a moment.
لأن حربنا مع أبناء القردة والخنازير هي حرب دينية عقائدية. تحيا فتح، تحيا. تفضل شيخنا الجليل.
47 عام عن انطلاقة الثورة. أي الثورة؟ الثورة الحديثة، الثورة الحديثة في تاريخ الشعب الفلسطيني، وإلا فلسطين كلها ثورة في الواقع. منذ جاء عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه إلى يومنا هذا، وإلى أن يرث الله الأرض ومن عليها. ففي صحيح الحديث وفي الصحيحين يقول لنا البخاري ومسلم: لا تقوم الساعة حتى تقاتلوا اليهود. فيختبئ اليهودي وراء الحجر أو الشجر، فينادي الحجر أو الشجر: يا مسلم يا عبد الله، هذا يهودي ورائي، تعال فاقتل. إلا شجر الغرقد. لذلك ليس عجيبا أن تروا الغرقد يحيط بالمستوطنات ويحيط بالمستعمرات ويحيط ويحيط ويحيط. هذه هي فلسطين إذا تحدثنا عنها، مع بداية الجهاد ومع استمرار الجهاد ومع النضال ومع مسيرة الشهداء.
معنا تليفون من الأسير من عائلة الأسير حكيم عواد. يسعد مساكم.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بداية أنا بشكركم لأنكم أنتم الحلقة متواصلة بيني وبين ابني، لأني أنا مرفوضة أمنيا أنا وكل العيلة.
طيب الحمد لله. تفضلي يا أختي، إن إحنا قادرين نوصل صوتك.
تفضلي. على قلبي ونور عيني. حكيم مازن عواد من قرية عورتا، عمره 17 سنة، منفذ عملية التموال، محكوم عليه 5 مؤبدات و5 سنين في سجن شطة. مساء الخير، أنا أخت الأسير حسن عواد وأخت الأسير صلاح عواد. وضحى عواد ام حبيب من قرية عورتا. أهدي سلاماتي الحارة إلى كل الأسرى الأبطال العظماء، وإلى أخوي الأسير حسن عواد رئيس المجلس القروي، وأخوي صلاح عواد الصحفي الأسير البطل، وإلى الأسير البطل الصامد الأسد يزيد عواد ابن أختي، وابن أختي حكيم عواد البطل الأسطورة.
ان شاء الله
بهديكم
اكيد.
السلام وبسلم عليكم،
واحنا كمان بدورنا بنحييهم ونهديهم.
بهدي حسن عواد ويزيد عواد وحكيم عواد وصلاح عواد في سجن الجلم وسجن شطة. بهديهم أغنية أبو عرب، يا أخوي في الزنزانة سمعت صوتك ناداني، إياك تزت البارودي هيك الوطن دعاني، عند عيونك يا خيي كلنا فدائية، لودي تحياتي على صوت رصاصاتي لأحمد سعاداتي وحكيم عوادي.
شكرا لكم. كانت معنا أسرة الأسيرين حسن وصلاح عواد من عورتا.
What you've seen here is how the Palestinian Authority promotes the killing of Jews before the fact and how they glorify those people who've killed Jews after the fact. These are both foundations of the Palestinian Authority. I'm not talking about Hamas now. This is the Palestinian Authority. The Mufti, and both of these items were on Palestinian official television last month. The Mufti, quoting an Islamic source, resurrection, the hour of resurrection won't come until Muslims fight the Jews and essentially kill all the Jews. So that genocide of Jews were presented as a condition of the continuing and reaching the hour of resurrection. Following that was a glorification of one of the family that was involved in one of the most horrific murders in recent years. The person who was mentioned there as a hero and legend was a person who went with his knife, together with his cousin, into the family of the Fogel family's home, killed the parents with his knife, slit the throats of the 3 children, one of them 2 months old. He is a hero and legend on official Palestinian television. This is the television run by Mahmoud Abbas from his office, the person who the United States is presenting now as a peace partner for Israel and demanding that Israel make concessions to. So this is something that you will never hear in English, but this is the Palestinian world that we see in Arabic.
It's unbelievable. Talk a little bit about the community in Bethlehem now. You and I were speaking yesterday about the number of Christians who have left Bethlehem. Help our audience to understand the dynamics that are happening within the community.
The Palestinian Authority makes a point when speaking around the world that it is the protector of Muslims and Christians. But in practice, everything that they have done since they have taken, since Israel handed them control of cities like Bethlehem, has been persecution of Christians on the physical level, on the financial level, every which way, so that when Bethlehem was under Israeli administration, the population, the Christian population, was between 60 and 70%. Today, just less than 20 years since it's been taken over by the Palestinian Authority, the Christian population is about 10%, and still dropping. So what has happened is there are 2 distinct messages again here. Now, if we may now look at 3 more videos that I brought for you, dealing with how the Palestinian population, specifically now the Hamas, sees this conflict. You saw before about how they see the conflict against the Jews. Now you're going to see that this is not just an issue for Jews, but that Christians are very explicitly being targeted as well for some of the most horrific destiny by the hands of, by the spokespeople of the Hamas. Please.
اللهم يا ربنا ويا مولانا ويا سيدنا اهزم أعداءك وأعداء الدين في كل مكان. اللهم عليك باليهود ومن هاودهم والنصارى ومن ناصرهم والشيوعيين ومن شايعهم. اللهم أحصهم عددا واقتلهم بددا ولا تغادر منهم أحدا.
وعما قريب إن شاء الله ستفتح روما كما فتحت القسطنطينية التي تنساح في أوروبا كلها، ثم تلتفت إلى الأمريكتين بل إلى أوروبا الشرقية لهذه المهمة، مهمة إنقاذ البشرية من نار هم على شفا حفرة منها.
This is very significant, way beyond the Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. The Hamas is a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. They're the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood, as you all know, is taking over and getting power already in Egypt and will have probably throughout most of the Arab and Muslim world. Now, that first message is so clear. Allah, count them till the last one, kill them till the very last one, Christians and Jews. This is official Hamas television. The second was a different approach. The war, World War III, that this Hamas member of parliament and religious leader was anticipating would start with Rome. Why Rome? Because for them, that is the capital of Christianity, and this is a religious war. Rome will be conquered first, and after that the rest of Europe, then the Americas. Everything will be subjugated under Islam, and his last words were so important. He said, in our mission of saving humanity from the fire from which they are on the brink, our mission of saving humanity, this World War III to subjugate the world under Islam is not something negative. This is on behalf of, we're doing this for the Christians and the Jews and the Buddhists and everyone else because otherwise they're going to burn, and therefore we are going to start World War III, subjugate them under Islam in our mission of saving humanity. The problem with this ideology, people sometimes say, oh, don't listen to the rhetoric, don't listen to the incitement. This is not incitement, it's not rhetoric. This is a belief, and it is shared by tens and tens of millions, possibly hundreds of millions of people around the world. It's something that must not be ignored.
It's very disturbing. Joseph, I'd like to address the next question to you. Itamar just clearly explained to us what we're dealing with Fatah. And Fatah is obviously considered a moderate government by our own administration, worthy of our tax dollars. Could you speak to the funding of our tax dollars going to this organization? You've written a lot about this article.
Yes, it's been going on for a very long time. I'm glad you could call on my expertise because I've been involved in this issue for so long. 1980s, I began as a Middle East correspondent, and that was really my first exposure to this world. And I like to say that I went to the Middle East with the same preconceived notions that almost every other American reporter goes to the Middle East with, that, you know, there are two sides. And if we can just get these two sides together and negotiate, we'll be able to work out a deal. And that's not what I found when I got there. But in answer to your question, and in commenting on what you had to say, Itamar, what we saw on these videotapes, this has been going on since Yasser Arafat's earliest days of propaganda. He was really the guy who invented this, speaking, you know, in different languages with two different messages. Back then it was a lot harder to find Arafat being candid in Arabic. We had to go to Johannesburg, South Africa to do it. And after a while we'd catch up with some. Now it's so blatant. Now it's so open on Palestinian TV, and I want to really thank Itamar for the amazing work that he's done. But yeah, think about this. This is all being subsidized with your taxpayer dollars. And you've been subsidizing it, this hate speech, for 30 years. When are we going to say enough of that? When is Christian America going to wake up and say, we're not going to be a part of this? We're not going to be a part of building a Palestinian state whose official position is no Jews are allowed to live there when this new terrorist state is created. We're going to pay for that?
Very good, thank you. Mr. Little, I'd like to address the next question to you. we look at the propaganda that's being put out by the Palestinians in the media. I talked earlier about Christian producers, film producers, who are producing counter programs to what we're producing to try to reach Christians with this biblical responsibility. What is the greatest challenge for those of us within the Christian communications world to get this message to reach the Christians before these producers who are producing lies and misinformation out there?
It's a continual fight. There's not an appetite for the truth. Dr. Wright was talking about the question is, what is the truth? And we're saying, these gentlemen are, this is the truth. We're seeing it in these pieces. And it's a continual battle to say this is what we are factually, scientifically, technically finding is the correct information. We've got to keep making the documentaries. We've got to encourage those who, such as yourself, who are doing those productions. And we've got to keep bombarding the media with our products. In our case at CBN, we utilize what access that we have through our outlets with our bureau in Jerusalem and other places to gather this same information and put it out through our outlets. And there are those internet sites and a few other TV channels which have them. But it's a continual battle that we must fight, and it's part of the ultimate fight that we're in. But it's perseverance is the answer. It's perseverance, and when we find and see truth, we got to come alongside voices like these and encourage them, strengthen them, and find ways to assist them.
Very good, thank you. Itamar, I have another question for you. Back in November of 1994, we know that Hamas and Fatah signed an agreement in Cairo. That agreement was to establish each side's sphere of responsibility. Fatah would appear as the negotiator with Israel, and Hamas would lead the terrorist attacks against Israel. Why would we assume that Fatah is a legitimate partner for peace?
There's no reason to assume that the Fatah and the Palestinian Authority are a legitimate partner in peace. The good news is that when many of the parliaments around the world, when they see this information, parliaments that have been very anti-Israel, we get incredible responses. And as much as we feel all of Europe is against Israel, when we go into the parliaments and we show them these same videos and make full presentations there, we have had success in some of the most difficult places. We are convinced there is a hardcore certain population around the world that is very anti-Israel, and nothing is going to ever change them. But we're also convinced that the overwhelming majority of people who are against Israel, it's because they are absolutely convinced that Israel is at fault, because they aren't seeing these videos. They aren't seeing what's really happening in Palestinian TV. There's a minister in the Canadian government today. His name is Jason Kenney. And last year, he was speaking publicly, and then it was published in the newspapers, and he said, I used to think Israel was the bully of the Middle East until I heard a 1-hour presentation from Palestinian Media Watch. Today, Jason Kenney is just about Israel's best friend in Canadian Parliament, and he was turned around. We see him as a prototype, and we see that challenge to reach out to members of Parliament. We will not accept that the entire world is against us. We will accept that the entire world is misinformed, uninformed, underinformed. We have to get the word out to them. You people here today who are journalists, who are involved in broadcasting, you have to take these videos, you have to take our material, you have to get on our email distribution list, and you have to be the megaphone for this material that we produce. Get it out there. We can turn the world around.
Very good. Thank you. Joseph, we're facing an election year. This is probably one of the most important upcoming elections. And we've heard the candidates speak about the issue of Israel and where they would stand in support of Israel. And considering the current administration, what are your thoughts about this election cycle. How critically important is this really with regards to supporting Israel and also protecting the sovereignty of the United States of America?
Well, I guess you could say it's life and death, Lori. I mean, I don't know how to put it any more soberly than that. The choices that we face are very stark. They're as stark as the videos that you've shown us here in many ways. I was thinking about one of those video imams there, kind of reminded me of Jeremiah Wright back in Chicago. Imagine listening to that for 30 years. I hope I don't get you in trouble for that, Lori. But I did think there was one amazing thing that happened in this presidential campaign a few weeks ago when Newt Gingrich made kind of an offhand observation that the Palestinians were an invention of history, and he got himself into a little bit of hot water, but I thought he handled it brilliantly. What he said was actually factual. I had written it 11 years earlier. I think one of the candidates suggested that Gingrich should have asked Benjamin Netanyahu whether it was an appropriate thing to say. I know he thinks so because he still has my article posted on his website from 11 years ago. So I think Mr. Netanyahu understands the historical realities. I mean, you know, you look at these videos, and that you also have to recognize that this whole nationhood movement by Palestinians is a total fabrication. It's all based on myth. Arafat was telling us that, you know, he was a descendant of the Philistines, you know, who were extinct thousands of years ago, and that was his basis for claiming the land of Palestine, which again was, you know, named that by the Romans after they destroyed the temple and so forth. I mean, the distortion, the claims of the Jews never lived on this land, they never had a temple here. You know, the blood libels run so deep that, and I think this is just the latest manifestation of that. And again, Itamar, I think you're absolutely right. The more people who see this, some are going to react to it and some are going to come to truth. There are some people who are not going to do that. There's going to be some people who react to that and are still deceived because they're in bondage to evil.
Just wanted to add one note to that. In terms of the rewriting of history, the Jews, they say, never were in the land of Israel. There never was a temple, which brings them to one incredible conclusion, and the Mufti said this on Palestinian television last year. This is the Palestinian Authority, most important religious leader, said that Jesus was therefore not a Judean, he was a Palestinian. But worse than that, he did not preach Christianity, he preached Islam. So in order to deny Israel's right to exist, they completely erase both Jewish tradition and not to mention history, but also Christian tradition. Jesus was a Palestinian. You could see that video on our website, palwatch.org. Jesus was a Palestinian who preached Islam.
Mr. Little, my next question would be for you. Do you feel that the media, Christian or mainstream, broadcasting, network, or on the internet, really understand or know how to tell the story of Israel's geopolitical reality?
No.
And how can we do better? How can we do better? Because you're the leader.
No and no to answer your questions. Thirdly, how do we do better? We act as professional journalists is the answer. Finding out this information, which much of this has been said in some forum by these voices and others on earlier occasions. This is, yes, some of this detail is new, but the kind of brainwashing of Palestinian children has been known for decades. How they're taught in their schools in geography that Israel does not exist. That's known by any professional journalists who cared to find out what's happening. Those kinds of things are facts that are there. Now the choice, the question is why, given the choice, do they not choose to present the truth? That's a serious question, and that's what we have to deal with. So that means we have to be more aggressive. Those of us who are exposed to this kind of information have to be aggressive and seek ways to let this information be known more boldly and robustly.
Amen. Thank you. I want to just mention to those of you within the Christian media who are here tonight to please connect with Pow Watch and Itamar Marcus, and connect with WorldNet Daily or WND, Joseph Farah. Get on their email list and use this information, use these people, these individuals as resources. We try at PJTN every year that we host this event to bring in speakers that will help you do your job easier, make it easier for you to obtain the information. That's why we take the time to invite you here and to invite these fine panelists to be with us as well. Itamar, one more question from you. What would you like to share with our audience, knowing that these are the Christian broadcasters? These Christian broadcasters and media can reach hundreds of millions of Christians around the world. What would you like to say to them in your closing comments?
Well, this, people have said it this evening already, but this is really a fight for all of us. We're not just fighting about a border here or there. We're fighting about existence. We're not negotiating with the Palestinians. Say we're negotiating about a border, but when you listen to what they say, we are negotiating, or existence is what's on the line here, and it's not just Jewish existence, it's the entire free world's existence, it's Christian existence. Therefore, the only way to win this battle is to get this material out there. Supreme Court Justice Brandeis said years ago, sunshine is the best disinfectant. Let people see what we're really up against. Don't say that it's rhetoric. Let the world see what we're up against. Let them see that they are in danger, that all of us are in danger, that every freedom and every bit of liberty that we all cherish is all in danger. And I want to end with just one quote, which was said by the Chief Justice of the Nuremberg trials. His name was Justice Robert H. Jackson, and it is very significant and has a lot of ramifications for today. He said the following in his decision after the Nuremberg trials. In his opening text, his introduction to his final decision, he said the following: "We must not forget that when the Nazi plans were boldly proclaimed, they were so extravagant that the world refused to take them seriously." We must not let this happen again.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to a close in our program, we're also going to offer our Tree of Life Award to Joseph Farah. But before I do that, I want to tell you why I chose Joseph this year. And for those of you who've been attending PJTN events and you know about this NRB event, we always look every year for a leader within the Christian media who goes above and beyond the call of duty to defend Israel to their sphere of influence, to their audience. WND has been one of the leaders in doing so. And I can't tell you what a tremendous honor it is to be able to present this award to Joseph Farah. He deserves it. He's committed to Israel and to the Jewish people. We spent a couple of hours yesterday, discussing this issue, and it gives me such great encouragement and hope to know that there's people like him who are out there who are willing to do whatever it takes to get this message out to their audience. Information is the key, and we've got to have the truth to be able to confront this, not just with our Christian media, but within our families, within our homes, on our college campuses with our students. And if we don't have fine individuals who are doing this incredible work, this labor of love, how are we going to get the message out? So I want to thank you all, and would you please, Joseph, join me at the podium? And I'm going to ask, this will get your muscles up, Joseph. This 2012 Ed McAteer Tree of Life Award is presented to Joseph Farah, Editor-in-Chief at WorldNet Daily, for his contribution to the State of Israel and the Jewish people this year, February 19th, 2012. Joseph, God bless you, and thank you. You will notice,
Thank
that
you
it's
so
a
much.
tree. It's the tree of life. It's two trees. It's our communities coming together to stand in defense of Israel and our Jewish brethren. You so deserve it. Thank you so much.
It's such a great honor. You know, it's an honor just hanging out with Lori Cardosa Moore, but to actually be taking stuff home with you, that's, you know, way beyond. I have to tell you, I've been so excited about this lady's ministry for years. I watch her show on television. I've seen all of her documentaries. When we're doing our Shabbat thing at home, we watch everything that you produce. And she is just such a heroine to me and to my family and the community of WND. So I'm blown away by the honor, and I hope I can live up to your ideas of who I am, because I'm surely not worthy.
You already have. You already have. Thank you again. Thank you so much. Can we give another hand of applause to our incredible panelists, please? Thank you so much.